Good evening, Eatontown. I pride myself on reporting the facts. What you are about to hear comes directly from the transcript produced from the recorded audio of the Eatontown Mayor and Council meeting. I have challenged different council members at different times. I have challenged Mayor Anthony Tallarico many times, and I have never been particularly shy about it. But tonight, it is a true test of consistency, of integrity, and bipartisan honesty. Because this story involves an exchange between Councilwoman Maria Grazia Escalante and Councilwoman Candace Faust. So I have two responsibilities tonight. The first, I have a responsibility to the public to report what happened truthfully. Second, I have a responsibility not to manufacture a scandal or question someone's character or turn an imperfect moment into a political execution. So no, I'm not here to bury anyone or defend anyone for that matter. I'm also not here to pretend the exchange never happened or nothing to see here, folks. So I'm going to present the proposal, the questions, the answers, the public comments, the exchange between council members, and the final vote. Then you can hear the record and judge it for yourself. No sensationalism, no selective outrage, no dramatic music suggesting somebody is about to be indicted over a garbage truck. Just the facts, the context, and because this is still me, perhaps a little satire along the way. So let's go ahead and get started. First, the Eatontown Mayor and Council meeting itself and the workshop. So the central issue was whether Eatontown should bring residential garbage and recycling collection back in-house when the current private contract expires in October 2028. The proposal would apply primarily to residential houses. Apartment collections would remain outsourced, and it would be placed out for a smaller, separate bid eventually. Councilwoman Candace Faust presented the financial analysis supporting the proposal. According to the presentation, bringing the service in-house would require specialized garbage trucks, sanitation workers, fuel, maintenance, insurance, cameras, training, route planning, and other operational expenses. The governing body discussed using the RAB funds to purchase the trucks outright. A separate financing scenario was also presented, not necessarily because the borough intends to finance the purchase, but to demonstrate whether the plan would still create savings if the truck costs were treated as debt. Faust explained that the calculation included several conservative cushions. Fuel was estimated using historically high diesel price. The calculation assumed 3 trucks operating 6 days per week, even though the actual plan is expected to involve 2 trucks operating only 5 days per week. Maintenance included estimated costs for tires, oil changes, and miscellaneous expenses. The plan also included 3 sanitation employees, even though only 2 trucks would ordinarily be operating. The third employee would provide coverage and perform other DPW duties when not needed for garbage collection. Councilwoman Faust stated, and I quote, "Considering all of this and using our best educated guesses and experience from having our financial planner take a look at this, having our interim director, Kenny, take a look at this, and talking to our different professionals, the projected gain is considering taking this portion of the contract in-house is really good on our end." End quote. Faust explained that she requested a resolution because she had previously told the public that the matter would return in August, and she believed the governing body had sufficient information to make a decision. Now let's talk about questions that were raised during the discussion. Councilwoman Maria Escalante then asked a series of operational and financial questions. And to be fair, these were not unreasonable questions. When government is considering purchasing expensive equipment, hiring workers, taking responsibility for a major public service, and making a decision that could affect taxpayers for years, council members should ask questions. Maria first asked whether the borough would bring both garbage and recycling in-house or garbage alone. The answer was both garbage and recycling. Maria then questioned how the vehicles would be cleaned when switching between garbage and recycling, whether specialized equipment would be necessary, and how the borough would comply with New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection regulations. Councilwoman Escalante asked, and I quote, "When we switch from garbage to recycling, we need to clean the vehicles. What kind of costs does that entail? And what kind of special machinery do we need? And how do we satisfy the DEP regulations regarding washing out trash and garbage and such? Do we do it here? Do we do it somewhere special? How is it going to be managed?" End quote. That was a legitimate operational question. Maria also asked whether one additional mechanic would be sufficient to maintain the garbage trucks while continuing to maintain the rest of the borough's fleet. She then questioned whether the financial analysis looked far enough into the future. She asked, and I quote, "Have you looked beyond 2028? Have we forecasted what is going to be for the next 5 or 10 years from now?" End quote. Different members from the council and the business administrator chimed in, and they stated that the future salaries, fuel prices, insurance costs, and private contract increases could not be predicted with certainty. They said the analysis used known labor costs, information from the insurance broker, and historically high diesel prices and conservative assumptions intended to provide a financial buffer. Maria also asked whether the borough might eventually expand into an in-house operation to apartment complexes as well. The response was that apartment collection require a different type of truck, and that separates the apartment portion and allows a smaller private hauler to compete for a contract. So bids may be coming in then. Councilwoman Danielle Jones then raised a broader policy question. Eatontown had previously handled garbage collection in-house before moving it to private contractors. So she wanted to know why the borough changed course before and whether taxpayers could find themselves in another reversal years from now. Councilwoman Jones stated, and I quote, "Because I don't want to repeat the same situation, that's why I'm asking. Because in 10 years from now, then we're going to be doing the same exact thing, and we could be selling those trucks for nothing and hire an outside company." End quote. That concern was not unreasonable. The response was that outsourcing may have been the best financial decision at the time, but the cost and quality of current private service have changed the equation itself. In other words, a decision that made sense years ago may not make sense today, and a decision made today could still require re-evaluation years from now. Now let's talk about DPW's newest director, Kenny Sneath. Congratulations, sir, on addressing the operational concerns. The DPW representative himself, Mr. Sneath, responded to Maria's questions about cleaning the trucks. He explained that the county has a regulated facility where borough vehicles can be cleaned. He stated that the garbage trucks would likely be cleaned approximately once per week and more often if circumstances required it. Employees would also be responsible for inspecting and maintaining the trucks as part of their routine duties. He did not anticipate a significant additional cost associated with switching between garbage and recycling. Now, the broader discussion also covered cameras, training, route planning, maintenance, missed pickups, damaged cans, and the workload currently placed on borough employees who must respond to complaints involving the private contractor. Several council members discussed residents reporting missed collections and damaged garbage cans. DPW representatives said that the borough had spent significant money replacing cans and that employees regularly handled complaints about the contractor services. So this was not simply a conversation about buying trucks. It was a conversation about cost, about accountability, control, staffing, service quality, and whether Eatontown could perform the job better itself. So up to this point, the disagreements were mostly substantive. Then the discussion shifted toward a different issue. So, who had received the final information, when it was received, and how it was communicated? Public comments raises a transparency question. So, during the public comment, you're truly asked whether Maria had received the information necessary to prepare for the discussion. I truly said, and I'm going to give you my direct quote because we got to keep it 100% authentic, honest, and transparent. Here's my quote. For the sake of understanding and accountability and transparency, I am just curious. It seems that the information that was provided by Councilwoman Faust was great, but it seems like Councilwoman Escalante did not necessarily have the full understanding and had a lot of questions. End quote. Then I asked whether the information itself had been properly sent in advance, or did we just witness it being delivered to the council members right here, right in front of us right now? Mayor Tallarico asked everybody to the left and to the right, did anyone not receive this information? Councilwoman Maria Escalante has responded, and I quote, I did it. The insurance numbers in here are the first that I'm seeing, and I'm seeing it for the first time right now. When I sat here and got a piece of paper and I did email questions, I emailed them to Andy. That's, by the way, our council lawyer. And we copied you on them. That was directly to Councilwoman Escalante. And I never heard anything back from them. End quote. Councilwoman Faust responded, I believe you emailed Andy on Thursday. He forwarded them to me via email on Monday. I have the draft documents right here. He said for you to reach out to Councilwoman Faust. You said, okay, on the email itself, and you never reached out to me, end quote. Councilwoman Escalante answered, and I quote, I replied and I said, okay. Okay was a reply to all, end quote. Candace then explained the new insurance figures. Quote, the insurance cost is $8,394 for the vehicles, and the sanitation workers, even though it's not a full 3, it'll be prorated. But to be extra conservative and have an extra buffer, $27,000. So those numbers are new to you? That was a question directed to Councilwoman Maria Escalante, where she had answered, I quote, yes, end quote, direct and right to the point. Now, Councilwoman Faust said that the other council members had contacted her and received additional information through conversations and meetings. She said, and I quote, I did have other council members contact me directly before, over the past couple of days, and I was able to give those very same numbers, end quote. She then continued, quote, everybody else, I will say, reached out to me multiple times, talking to me, setting up meetings in person. The only person that I heard from only 2 days before today's meeting was you. That was obviously directed at Councilwoman Escalante, where she had responded, and I quote, you also have to understand what's going on in my personal life, end quote. Where Councilwoman Faust answered, quote, I understand, but if you're going to say anything, everybody else did their part. I'm sorry for what's going on in your personal life, and I'm not going to get into it. But it is also the truth, end quote. Maria Escalante had answered, and the quote was, that is the truth, end quote. Then Mayor Tallarico had to step in and brought the exchange to an end. The mayor acknowledged that the insurance-related expenses had arrived shortly before the meeting. He also argued that the new insurance costs did not materially change the overall analysis because the calculations already contain substantial financial buffers. The fairest interpretation of the exchange is this. Maria was correct that the finalized insurance numbers were new to her at the meeting, but so were to everybody else. Candace also was correct that direct follow-up was requested and it didn't occur before the meeting. This appears to be a breakdown in communication and process rather than a clear case of misconduct. Now let's talk about Resolution 175 and the final votes. So later, Resolution 175, that's the resolution for the garbage truck to be purchased. It was considered separately. However, Councilwoman Maria voted no, and she explained, I am voting no because I feel like I don't have enough information to make a decision at this time. The insurance information was provided at the last minute, and while Councilwoman Faust said that would be provided for me and give me more information, it would have been nice to see the information that was provided to everyone else in their discussion in our folders, where we can review things. But all that was provided was the analysis, which was incomplete and 3 quotes. So I have to vote no. Now, here's the thing. I know what you're thinking. Hold on. Wasn't there an exchange about, do you have any questions? No, I don't. Because all the other council members voted yes, and the resolution passed. Maria's vote reflects caution based on her assessment of the materials in front of her. She also acknowledged receiving new information at the meeting itself. At the same time, the records do show, and we have to be transparent and call it for what it is, there were opportunities for direct follow-up and were not fully completed before the vote. Both of those facts can't exist at the same time. This was not a case of simple misunderstanding or a clean procedural failure. It was a combination of timing, of communication or lack thereof, of gaps, and different expectations about how information should be shared. Maria raised legitimate concerns about DEP compliance, about maintenance, about staffing, about long-term costs, and whether the borough could face future reversals of policy. Candace presented a detailed financial analysis, incorporated conservative assumptions, and provided additional information when contacted. The issue here is process clarity, not personal intent. Look, politics often turn every disagreement into a performance, but most local government decisions are not dramatic moral battles. They are messy, technical, and dependent on timing, communication, and incomplete information, unfortunately. This was one of those situations. And I want to be clear about something. I will not distort the facts to make any political narrative cleaner. And I will not attach myself to individuals in any way that turns reporting into campaigning. My responsibility since the very beginning to you is to give you the clean truth record based on what is in that transcript every other Wednesday, not for convenience. And we're doing that right in here. So my position is simple. Major financial decisions should come with complete and uniform documentation. It needs to be delivered to every council member with reasonable time for review. Council members also have a responsibility to read that information, to follow up directly, and make reasonable efforts to obtain answers. Transparency requires consistency in how information is distributed. Accountability requires effort in how information is pursued. This was a policy discussion with real questions, in perfect timing, and a breakdown in communication that should be improved going forward. That is the story today, not exaggerated hype material on social media. No, there's no corruption. No, there are no scandals in here. A real government process playing out in real time with all its imperfections that also come with it. That's the truth. I'm Ali Mehdaoui, and this is the kind of honest, proportional, and fact-based reporting Eatontown deserves, and I intend to bring to you and continue to bring to you in the future. I'll see you next time.